If you're like me, sometimes life can feel like a whirlwind of demands.
Between the daily tasks of cooking, cleaning, work deadlines, juggling kids, paying bills, and of course that never-ending to-do list, it's a miracle we remember to breathe. But don't let that madness take over. What if I told you that amidst the chaos, you can escape to a tiny oasis of creativity with just a few strokes of the paintbrush? With these quick and easy watercolor flowers, they are a perfect excuse to hit pause, breathe, and find joy in the moment. When I need just a quick painting fix, I like to just pull out a watercolor journal or a block pad that's ready to go like this one. It's already bound, so I don't have to worry about paper warping or taping or stretching paper or anything like that. I can just jump right into painting. Then, of course, you need some watercolor paints. Just pull out what you have or what you like to use. For my paints today, I'll actually be using my Craftamo paints that will be included in my upcoming Craftamo subscription boxes. In fact, this fun little paint tin you see them in is something I wanted to be included as an extra little gift with the subscription boxes as well. That way, each month, as you receive your 4 new half-pan paint colors, you can have somewhere to put them, collect them, and store them. Then, of course, we need some clean water and a paper towel, which I have just off to the side here. And then lastly, some brushes. Today's easy painting will actually be featuring the angle brush. I have a small and a larger size I'll be using for this piece today. Of course, any size will work. It will just change how big or small your flowers will be. I have here a 1/4-inch angle brush and a 1/2-inch angle brush. All of these will be included in my subscription boxes as well. And actually, I will tell you that this 1/4-inch angle brush is truer to size than the one that I have in my 5-piece Craftamo set. So I'll show you a comparison of that in just a minute so you can see what I'm talking about. But then besides the angle brushes, I also have pulled out a couple of small rigger brushes, a number 1 and a number 2. If you don't have rigger brushes, you can just use round brushes instead though. Just pick something fairly small in size. Oh, and I forgot, I just got a fun new tool here in my studio. I'll pull that out really quick. It's just a small but very pretty little flower shape brush rack so I can set a couple of brushes onto it while I paint. That way they don't roll around all over my table. Now, really quickly, I am going to be pulling out a 1/4-inch angle brush that I have in my 5-piece brush set, so I'll just show you the comparison here. When I created the 5-piece set, since there was only going to be one angle brush in the set, I needed it to be versatile. So it's actually just slightly bigger in width than the true to size 1/4-inch brush, but it's also slightly smaller than the 3/8 size. Here is the 3/8 brush that's true to size that is also going to be coming in the subscription boxes. So anyway, just a slight variation here that I wanted to point out. And as a side note, I will leave a link to my Craftamo product page for the upcoming subscription boxes if you're interested in being notified when they become available. I will also list links and information for any of the other products you see me using today. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get to painting. Now, you can use any colors that you'd like. I'm going to try a 2-toned effect on my flowers today, but I have painted these before with just one solid color as well, and that works great too. So for this first color, I'll just mix up a nice light yellow color using some cadmium yellow, mixed with just a touch of cream color that is called One Brilliant Light. I'm also adding a little bit of extra water to this color to lighten it up and make it a little bit more runny. Then I'll take a touch of alizarin crimson for the second petal color. All right, now using this larger 1/2-inch brush, I'll load it up full of this lighter yellow color, and then I'll just swipe the longer half of the bristle tips into the alizarin crimson color. Then when I'm ready to start painting in the petals, I'll hold the brush with the longer point facing downward or at the center point of the petal or flower. Then all we have to do to create the petal shape is wiggle the brush up and down 3 or 4 times, creating some soft curves at the top. And at the same time, we're going to sort of pivot that brush, moving the shorter end of the brush around, making that lovely ruffly top. Then I'll finish the stroke or petal shape off by pulling the stroke or brush back down. Now, I know that went a little bit fast, but don't worry, we are going to get a lot of practice with this stroke because we get to keep just doing that over and over again to create the entire flower. Now, this might take a little bit of practice to get the hang of, so if you need to, pull out a scrap piece of paper to play around with and test the stroke out on before you try putting it together in this painting. Now you can paint these petals all the way around in a full circle, but I actually kind of like the more side-facing view of these today, so I'll just paint half of the flower with maybe just 4 petals. Then I'll actually switch over to my number 2 rigger brush and add in a touch of green for the base of the flower while the petals may still be a little bit wet so that the colors might just blend and bleed together a little bit. I'll just use some pure olive green first to create the basic shape, but then I think I'll add a bit of shadow and depth to this, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of darker green by mixing olive green and some sepia brown together. I'll just take a touch of that darker green and add a hint of it in here while the paint is still wet so that they will gently bleed into each other. And there we have a beautiful little flower head, super simple and uncomplicated, but also really loose and pretty. At this point, I'll just go ahead and paint in a few more to fill out my page, and then we can add some connecting stems in later. And just for information's sake, if you need to reload your brush with fresh paint for each petal, you can do that, but if your brush still seems to be full of color, you can also just go ahead and paint the next petal right away. You'll have to be the judge there, I guess. You also might notice that because I'm using 2 colors on these, some of my petals might be heavier on the pink and some are more heavy on the yellow. Some are lighter and some are darker than others. I'm just leaving them as they are and am enjoying the variation. This is what makes them look loose and carefree, and I kind of think it actually makes them look more realistic too. Now, I do really like the side-facing flowers the best, and I was going to do the whole piece like that today, but just so you can kind of see what it would be like to paint the whole front-facing flower, I'll do that with this one really quick. So, really the only difference here is that I'm going to add more petals so that they make their way all the way around into a full circle. Actually, I guess this one is more of an oval shape, but that works too. I think you get the idea. But then because this is more of a front-facing flower, I'm not going to add the greenery at the base just because it wouldn't be seen as well in a position like this. But I may add a touch more alizarin crimson to the center of the flower though, just to add some more depth in there. And really, you are in charge of what you want to do with your painting and how you want it to look. So you can have all of your flowers side-facing, you can paint them all front-facing, or you can have a mixture of the two. The decision is totally up to you. I really hope you're enjoying this tutorial so far. We all need a break from our everyday routines, and whether the painting turns out exactly the way you want or not, this is just a time where you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the painting process. You know, I was realizing a few weeks ago that I think my favorite thing about creating and sharing these watercolor tutorials is knowing that this is something that connects us all together. No matter where we live or what other differences we might have, this is something that can bring us together. This is something we have in common. I think that's a pretty powerful thing. So if you find you are enjoying my painting and teaching style, I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already so you can join this positive and uplifting little watercolor community and also see more of my upcoming weekly tutorials. I try to have a good variety of skill level pieces to try out, so there's something for everyone. Okay, well, I'm thinking that's probably enough flowers for my painting. It looks pretty filled out with still some room for some stems, but I kind of want to finish off the composition a little bit, and I think maybe it would be fun to add some few buds in here too. Now, this of course is optional, but if you'd like to give it a try, all I'm doing here is literally loading my brush in the same way as before, as well as holding it the same way. But instead of creating the fluffy, ruffled petals, I'll just create one small stroke of the brush by just barely curving and pulling out the brush stroke. That just creates one half of the bud. We'll let that dry a tiny bit before we add in the second half, but I don't think I need a lot of these buds, maybe just 3 or so. This just kind of changes up the shape and size of things a little bit to make our painting look a little bit more interesting. I should have let that dry just a little bit more, but I think I'll just go ahead and add in the second half of the bud anyway. Really, I'm just using the same brush stroke that we just did, only this time curving it out in the opposite direction. Now, I did go through this kind of fast, but I do have other tutorials that I teach this same stroke a little bit slower and in more detail that I can put links to in the description of this video if you're interested in learning more about it. Now I'll go ahead and add in some greenery at the base of these buds as well. All right, I think we are ready to finish this little painting off. Let's just add in some stems really quick and we can call this done. I'll just freshen up these green colors a little bit first, and then I'll use the number 2 rigger brush to make some nice long stem lines on the flowers. You can do this however you'd like, of course, but I'm going to start off with the pure olive green first, and then while that is still a little bit wet, I'll add just a touch of that darker green in here just to change the flavor a little bit. I'll also point out that I kind of like to have some of these stems connect together occasionally. I think it adds something extra to this composition and makes it a little bit more cohesive and less busy looking at the base of the page. Now, I do have this one open flower here that I also need to finish off really quick. So if you decided to put any of this type into your painting, all you need to do is take a nice thin brush like this number 1 rigger, take a touch of that dark green paint, or you could even try a nice dark brown or black color even, and just paint some nice thin stamen lines into the center of the flower. I'll just paint a few of these lines spreading out here and then top them off with little dots or circles of color at the top. And actually, while I'm at it, I might even add just a hint of detail along the petals as well. Using this #1 rigger again, I'll take a touch of alizarin crimson and paint some very thin vein lines along the petals. Now, these are very subtle, but it does kind of add or enhance to the look of these flowers a little bit. The biggest thing to keep in mind here is to not overdo it. Keep them thin, keep them light in value so they don't overpower the whole flower, and you really only need maybe 3 or 4 lines on each petal. Okay, I actually kind of like this just as it is. I don't know that it even needs grass or leaves on here at all. But just for information's sake, so you have the option if you like it, I will show you what I think might work well here. I want these to be a little bit more subtle as well, since the flowers I have on here are more soft and light in their color. So I'll switch over to the 1/4" angle brush and start off by painting in some very small leaves here along the stems of the flowers. Now you can use the light or dark olive green for this, just whatever you feel or want to try. All I'm doing here is just laying the brush down, starting the stroke out with the thin side of the bristles. Then as I pull the brush outward a little ways, I'll turn the brush slightly to the broad side and then back again to create a fine point at the tip. Now, I really don't want a lot of these, just a few. All right, I think that's good enough. Now, if you'd like to try some longer, more grass-like shapes, you really can just paint these using that same brush stroke. The biggest difference is that you're just going to make them longer and stretch them out a little farther. Again, I'm keeping these very subtle, very light in value, and not too many of them. Isn't this so fun? The angle brush truly can create some of the easiest and most fun one-stroke petal flowers, leaves, and grasses. There are so many possibilities on how to use it, as well as mixing and matching the brush strokes into different compositions, as well as different colors. I just hope you'll have some fun with this and play around with some of what you've learned today. I'm so glad you joined me. I truly hope you enjoyed this little watercolor painting getaway. Don't forget to take some time for you this week and have fun with a simple and quick painting fix. If you did enjoy this tutorial, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.